What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience. It's my birthday. Yep, it is my birthday. I am 28 years old today. And I don't know, I'm not really trying to make a big deal about my birthday. I mean, I guess I kind of am, but I just wanted to kind of use my birthday as an opportunity to do a solo episode. I haven't done a solo episode in a while, and I wanted to kind of just reflect on the past year, being 27 and now being 28, and what's different, if anything, and kind of just, reflecting on the past year and then looking at the future. So, it's been a wild ride, guys. If you've been with me since the beginning, then you remember when I started this thing, and it's come a long way. For sure, I started this podcast in January. I mean, I changed the name of it, but I started it in January, and I started my YouTube channel a year ago. So if you're a real OG, you remember when I was doing workout videos and what I eat in a day and all that kind of stuff, which I do still want to do some of that stuff again, but it takes so much time, and I'm trying to focus on the podcast right now and the MMA stuff. So I don't know. If I have the time to do it, I will. But anyways, I'm feeling good today. I got my Starbucks. You know, you get a free drink on your birthday from Starbucks, so why not be a basic biatch? And yeah, I got my drink. I got what did I get? The shaken apple oat milk espresso. Apple crisp. It's actually fire. So where do we start? So I'm just going to talk about kind of just where I've been this year, what I've done, what I've learned, and then I'll get into some Q&A later. I've got a ton of questions in the Q&A, so thank you guys for asking the questions, by the way. I appreciate it. So in January, like I said, I started my podcast, and at the time, I still owned my insurance agency, which I knew I was going to leave at that time because you have to give 3 months notice or whatever to the company. Sorry, guys. I've been sick. So if I cough, that's why. I'm not sick anymore, but I still have a lingering cough a little bit. So I started my podcast in January, and I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really have any expectations. I just wanted to start it because I've been talking about starting it. I actually talked about starting a podcast 4 years ago, and I just never did it because it's always taking that first step that's the hardest. It's always just taking the jump and in doing something scary, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't seem scary. It's not scary like climbing Mount Everest. It's not scary like, going to a haunted mansion or something. It's scary in the sense that like you're putting yourself out there for everybody to critique and look at and, and in the beginning, yeah, like when I first started my podcast, most of the comments were negative, unfortunately. So, which I don't know. I expected it, but at the same time, I was like, okay, this is worse than I thought it would be. Like, I thought I would have some positive, and it was just not a lot of positive. It was mostly negative, mainly because there weren't that many people listening to it or watching it. And then, yeah, so I started it, and like I said, didn't think much of it. Wasn't really like trying to turn it into like something to make money right away. Wasn't like, it was just something that I've always wanted to do. I've been a big Joe Rogan fan, and I've talked about this. I've been a big Joe Rogan fan since I was in elementary school. So that's one of the biggest influences on my life. And and you can probably see that. And I was even thinking about this yesterday. I was like, wow, I'm kind of like a female version of Joe Rogan in a way. Not quite on his level, obviously. He's miles ahead of me. But in the sense of like the MMA stuff, and I'm into comedy, and I don't do stand-up comedy, but it's something that I want to do at some point eventually. And yeah, like MMA and just being a very curious person too. And I think that's why Joe Rogan is such a big influence on me, because we're so similar. And it's just funny, like how similar we actually are in a lot of ways. And I didn't even realize it until recently. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, I don't know. It's just funny. And even like our mindset and things and our views on things. Now, the only thing is that I feel like I probably am a little bit more spiritual, religious than Joe Rogan is. I know he's agnostic, and I've been agnostic at one point in my life where I just didn't, it's not something that I thought about. Like, I just didn't think about religion. I didn't think about, like, I had a feeling that, like, there was something out there, but it wasn't really something I dove into that much. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and so, as a rebellious teenager, I was like, oh, I don't want to go to church and all that kind of stuff. And then the past year, I've really kind of felt a little bit closer to God and felt like I'm almost ready to kind of bring that back into my life. And I'm getting there, and it's hard. It's a journey. And Sam Tripoli was talking about this on Joe Rogan's podcast about kind of his journey on, getting into Christianity. And it's something that, I'm not looking for someone to save me or somebody to fix all of my problems, which in the past might have been a reason for me to go to Christianity. I wanted to get closer to God just because I felt it, I wanted to actually feel it, believe it, and genuinely be like, okay, yes, I believe in God. I feel God. I feel the presence. And that's the point that I've gotten to. And also just things have happened in my life. I've manifested things. I've seen things unfold and happen that really I don't think would have been possible if God weren't real. And so, like I said, I'm not super, super religious, but I do believe in God. And I do think that the closer you get to God, that the more likely, you are to reach the places you want to reach. I honestly think that. And it doesn't matter, what your religion is. Whoever your God is, I think it's important to have one. And I think it's important to have a higher purpose. And I think that's one thing too that has just driven me and motivated me. And Sam Tripoli was talking about this too, about how when you're doing drugs and you're, doing things you shouldn't do, you're getting further and further away from God. And I think that in the past that may be why I kind of did get further away from God. And now, I don't do drugs anymore. I haven't done anything like that except for marijuana in like 6 years. And then alcohol, I haven't had a sip of alcohol in a year. So I think removing those things too, and also just toxic people and just bad habits and things like that. I think, when you do the right things, when you work out, when you take care of yourself, you eat healthy, you don't drink, you don't go out and party, you don't do all those things, I think you get closer to God. And it's not the religion that motivated me to do those things and to remove those things from my life. But as a result of removing those things in my life, then I've kind of felt more ready to allow God back into my life. So that's one thing that has been really big for me. Is just kind of feeling a little bit more spiritual, feeling God's presence. And sometimes something that will help me too with doing this is like I'll watch videos on YouTube of people talking about religion, talking about Christianity, talking about their experience with it. And then also listening to Christian music, like listening to gospel and listening to songs about God. That's been really helpful for me too, to kind of just feel, a little bit more locked in. And when I first kind of started to get on this journey, or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual journey, I didn't really understand what was happening. And now I realize that was God's way of trying to welcome himself back into my life. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know. I just went on a long tangent there, but I thought that was important to talk about. So in January, I started my podcast, and then February, I ended up leaving my insurance agency, which I had decided, back in, I decided like last summer that I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to give up. But what I realized is that it's not as simple as quitting. When I left my agency, and I'm still involved, with the company, I'm still involved with insurance a little bit. I'm not directly involved with it, like selling it anymore, but I am involved with it. And, I still really appreciate the relationships that I built and the things that I learned through that experience. But when I decided to leave, I realized that I wasn't quitting when I left. I had quit a while ago. I had quit years ago. I quit on myself. I quit on my dreams. And while I know insurance is a lucrative career, and for a lot of people, they're passionate about it, it's their thing, it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what gave me that sense of fulfillment, and it's something that I feel like can still be a part of my life and something I can use as a way to make money and pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want it to be my entire life, because when you revolve your life around your business, your career, and a lot of times you have to, when you own a business, you kind of have to, especially in the first couple of years, you have to revolve your life around it. And I realized that I quit on my dreams and I quit on myself when I decided to do that, because I didn't allow any time or mental space to pursue the things that I really want to pursue, like getting involved with MMA and getting involved with doing podcasts and doing all these things that I want to do. I couldn't do that because my entire life was consumed with this one thing. So I realized that I wasn't quitting. I was actually starting over is what I was doing. I was picking up where I left off. When I told my friends, I told myself 4 years ago that I wanted to start a podcast and that I wanted to do this, everything that I'm doing, because I knew that it would give me a huge sense of fulfillment. I I think it was important for me to realize that I wasn't quitting. I wasn't giving up. You know, I didn't get defeated. I didn't, I guess, handle it the exact way I would have wanted to. You know, the exit wasn't ideal. I left pretty much when I had to. I actually should have left sooner. Just because it drained so much from me. And it drained me because I wasn't doing the right thing. I wasn't doing what I meant to do. And now I know what I'm meant to do. And I wish I would have started sooner, but I honestly think if I wouldn't have had that experience of owning my own business, owning the agency, that I wouldn't be as successful doing what I'm doing now. Because when I owned the agency, I learned how to do social media. I learned how to promote myself. I learned how to do all these different things. And then I just took that and applied it to things I'm actually interested in, like MMA and fitness and, you know, just talking about life and trying to motivate, inspire people. And that's really what I want to do. And, you know, sometimes I wonder if people think I'm weird. Like, I'll message people and I'll just say nice things to them. You know, if I see somebody doing something really cool or if I really admire someone's work ethic or their drive or whatever they're doing, I'm a big believer in telling them and showing them appreciation, showing them support and encouragement, because I've had people do that for me. And sometimes all it took was one person to be like, hey, Bree, I see what you're doing. You're really good at this. Keep doing it. And if I wouldn't have had that one person, then who knows? I might not have done, you know, an episode that day, or I might not have taken, you know, a risk that I took or whatever it is. Sometimes you just need one person who appreciates you and believes in you. And I want to be that person for as many people as possible. And be genuine about it too. Like, I'm not going to tell somebody they're doing a great job or that I admire them or whatever if I really don't. So if I message you that, or if I tell you that, I mean it. I mean it. I don't say things like that just to say them. It's because I've had people do it for me, and it's super important, and it boosted my confidence. It made me feel more of like believing in myself, because I believe in myself, but sometimes I'm like, man, am I crazy? Am I delusional? You know, what am I doing here? And so, yeah, I like to be that person. I think it's important. I don't know what my dog's doing. She's insane. But anyways, yeah. So, and then speaking of kind of being that person, in March, that's when I did my first guest episode. So I had Emily on, and Emily is that person for me, for sure. So my best friend, Emily, who, if you go back to like episode 3 or something, or episode 2, she was my first guest on my podcast, and we recorded it in my kitchen. It was so funny. And she was that person that really believed in me first. And so I'll always appreciate that about her. And her husband too, Montel, same thing. So that's why I do that for my friends. And when I see somebody honestly doing, you know, fulfilling their dreams, their passions, I want to support them and encourage them in that. Because I know that there were people like Emily and other people that did that for me. And just because Emily's my friend doesn't mean she has to support me. There were a lot of people that were my friends that didn't support what I'm doing, you know? A lot of people turned on me, you know, when I started doing this. And even still now, like now that I'm starting to get kind of some success from it, yeah, I mean, people, it's interesting how people kind of change. But whatever. So then in May, I started my MMA podcast, which I started that because I wanted to dedicate, a whole, show every week just to MMA, because I wanted to talk about MMA in depth, like really go in depth, break down the fights, talk about the fighters, and really just kind of, go in depth on it and go all in on it. And I wanted to kind of turn that part of it into more of like a career. So, breaking down the fights, and not only that, but helping promote the fighters, creating a platform to help promote the fighters, the different MMA organizations, promote the different shows coming up, gyms too, like promoting MMA gyms, coaches. I wanted to create a platform to not only break down the fights, but do so in a more positive way, to where most of my feedback is positive. And not that I'm being, I'm still being accurate at the same time, but just kind of withholding some of that negative feedback that I feel like a lot of people give in MMA. A lot of MMA analysts or YouTubers or podcasters, sometimes they have a lot of negative feedback. And so it's not that I don't want to bring up negative things, because there are times where I feel like it's necessary, but I wanted it to be mostly positive. I wanted it to be something that will help the fighters, help the coaches, help the gyms, help the promotions, help them to actually grow. Because I think it's important. And so that was kind of what I wanted to do. And at the same time, it benefits me because, the more people listen to my show, then, the closer I can get to monetizing it and end up, turning that into more of something that is a career. And then I started, covering the actual fights, which was really cool. I covered my first one in July. I covered the IKF stand-up fight series kickboxing tournament, which was awesome. And then actually, was that July or June? That might have been June. Gosh, I don't remember. Yeah, that wasn't July. That was either May or June. No, it was May, because it was when I started my podcast. So my first event was in May. And then June, I did my first live stream. So that's when I started to kind of venture into like the streaming side of it. I did a fight companion for like 6 hours, which was insane. And then in July, I started a new job. And I was working before, even after I left the insurance agency. I was doing Uber Eats and Instacart and stuff like that. And I was doing like little odd job, like side jobs, and just kind of doing whatever I could do to make money. And it's not the most glamorous thing in the world, but I'm not ashamed of that. Like, I don't need a fancy job title to feel good about myself. I know what journey I'm on, and I know what it's going to require for me to get where I want to go. And if it requires me doing Uber Eats, then that's what it is. I'm determined to get where I want to go. So whatever I have to do, and luckily now I have other avenues of making money besides just that, which I still do it on the weekends, but you just got to do what you got to do. It's a tough economy right now. So, you can't just, sit on nothing. Like, you can't just not do anything. So, and I think it was good for me. It kind of humbled me a little bit, going from being this like business owner, insurance person, and I had been in the insurance industry for 5 years. So it's something I knew really well. And then going from that, and then, you kind of humble yourself a little bit. But I think it's good. I think, job titles, who cares? As long as you are living the life you want and you are pursuing things that you are passionate about and things that you care about, and you're good to other people, you're respectful to other people, then who cares? But I'm not going to be doing it for very long. So, but so July I started a new job because I was like, I got to the point where I had a little bit of, of an identity crisis. I was like, what am I doing? I'm doing Uber Eats and Instacart. I'm like, I feel like a loser. I'm like, I'm a loser. and that's kind of how I felt. Even though for me it worked great. because, it's a flexible schedule. I don't have to report to anyone, which is great for me because I'm just not, I'm what they call unemployable. We'll say that. But yeah, I started a new job. It went really well for like the first month. And then, yeah, I absolutely hated it. I hated it. I didn't hate the job, which you would think I would because I was cold calling all day. I was making like 100 cold calls a day. And I had to drive 40 minutes to get to this place. And I was there for 9 hours a day. And I was still doing all the content I'm doing now. And I mean, not as much. I was doing still 2 podcasts a week. And I was live streaming once a week. And I was still doing like clips once a day. So I was still doing a lot of content and working full time. So then I was like, okay, eventually I'm going to get burnt out of this job and it's going to, possibly negatively affect what I'm doing outside because they were just like freaking micromanaging the living crap out of me. And they wanted to know about my podcast. They wanted to know everything I was doing outside of, I'm like, whoa, buddy. I'm like, that is none of your business. I am not, I'm just here to work and make money. I'm making cold calls, dude. Like, I'm not, this isn't the CIA. Like, I don't need to tell you guys every little thing I'm doing outside of work. So there was just like little things that they did that drove me insane. And then I got sick. So I actually got sick twice while I was working there. The first time, I'm pretty sure I had COVID. And I actually still went to work. And I was sneezing, coughing, like just like how I am now, but worse. And I still went to work because I was like, well, I got to work. And then I got sick right before I quit. And it was just a lupus flare-up. And so I was absolutely exhausted. And probably because I wasn't happy going to work. I didn't feel good going there. I got anxiety as soon as I stepped into that place. So it was just like, cause I don't know. I just didn't like the feeling of being watched and micromanaged. Like they had cameras in the office live streaming us on on the website. So like the customers could see like the whole sales floor and like, it's not a big deal. It's just more the principle of it. Like, I don't want to be watched all day long. Like, that's just, no. Like, I'm just not about that life. Like, that's just not something I am willing to tolerate, is being watched all day long. Like, I'm being babysat. Like, it just was weird. It was so weird. And the HR lady, she had so many problems with me. She was just like, didn't like what I wore to the office and all this kind of stuff. And so I just didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel comfortable. I was just like, ugh, like, I don't want to be here. And so I think that feeling just kind of got to me and all the stress got to me. And I wasn't making that much money either. Like, I mean, I was making decent money, but it wasn't as much as I was making when I was doing insurance. We'll say that. So yeah, I was like, okay, this is just not going to work. And cause I got sick, I literally, and that's the problem with lupus. Like when you're stressed and you're unhappy, lupus will flare up every single time. So for me, the biggest thing for me to do is limit stress, which is hard because life is stressful. But also, like, and this is something that Joe Rogan talks about all the time. He's like, create your own stress. And I think that's the thing. I think when I have more control over my stress, that's the key. So creating my own stress of like, oh, how am I going to get all this stuff done? How am I going to get, my podcast edited by the end of the day? How am I going to do this? And how am I going to make it to the gym on time? And creating your own stress in that way of, creating, like, when you, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like, yeah, like creating it yourself, having control of your stress. I think that's the key for me, because when somebody else is in control of my stress and when my stress is more of an external thing, that's when it seems like my health really starts to decline. So I had a bad flare up. I was pretty much bedridden for like 2-3 days. And I even offered to work from home. I was like, hey, I can work from home. I have my computer. You guys can track all my activity. And they were like, no, we don't do work from home. So I was like, okay, well, we just did work from home the other day and it worked fine. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it was really dumb. But anyways, it worked out because I actually, right before that, right before I quit, like probably a month before I quit, I got discovered by Fight Bananas. And Fight Bananas is an MMA media outlet. And Dave Van Auken, he's the co-owner. Dean Toole's the founder. Dean Toole, he is the matchmaker for Game Bread FC. So Jorge Masvidal's matchmaker, business partner. And he does a lot of things with Icon, MMA, and all these other MMA organizations. And yeah, so, and then Dave Van Auken, super well connected in the MMA world. Yeah, just really good people. And even, the other people that are at Fight Bananas, like Jonathan and Maddie, and Elle Dawson and Grant Dawson, like everybody there is so cool. So I really am excited to be a part of that team. But yeah, that's when I got discovered by them, and that was a huge win for me. So I was like, okay, I feel like, things are moving in the right direction, and it kind of all just came together at the perfect time. Like, I think me quitting that job, while at the time it seemed scary, like I was already applying to other jobs like a week before that, because I knew I was going to have to quit. And I was like, maybe I can find something work from home, so that way I don't have to worry about if I get sick, I can still work. Because I get sick all the time. Like, it's just, I have lupus. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. I've tried to fight it. I've tried to deny it. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So, and I like to work. That's the thing about me. People think I don't want to work, and it's like, no, I don't want to go to work. I want to work by myself. I like to work alone. That is the biggest thing for me. So when I have to go somewhere to work and deal with people, like if there's days where I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to talk to anyone in person. I'll talk to people like, text and maybe even sometimes even phone call. I won't answer phone calls for a whole day because I'm just like, no. And sometimes that's just necessary for me, especially if I'm sick. So yeah, I didn't feel welcome there. I didn't feel comfortable. And so I think it was just like the perfect timing too, because shortly after I quit, that's when I ended up covering the Shamrock event, which if you haven't seen my post-fight interviews, I threw all that together in a day, just so you guys know. So that was all me. I filmed it, recorded it, edited all of it, threw it together in a day. Didn't even know I was going to be covering the fights until the day before, which it was an awesome experience. I'm so glad I got to do it. And I'm super excited to do it again. But yeah, that was right after I quit my job. So just doing things like that, like putting myself out there a little bit more, getting out of my comfort zone. I think if I still had that job, I probably wouldn't have done that. I think I would have been like, no, I want to take it easy this weekend and rest. And, because it was a lot of preparation, getting to do that. So, yeah, it kind of all worked out at the perfect time. And I'm starting to actually get some traction, starting to talk about, getting sponsors, which I have, some people kind of lined up that I'm working on kind of getting sponsorship deals and stuff like that. So that's exciting. And that, is something I'm more kind of focused on for next year. I'd love to get sponsors right now, of course, but I know that it's kind of unrealistic to expect me to just get a bunch of sponsors immediately, especially if I want to get the right sponsors. So so that's something I've started to do too, is and I purposely didn't ask for sponsor. Like, I know people who got sponsorships like day one when they started their podcast. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that because first I wanted to make sure that this was going to be sustainable for me, that I was actually going to do it. and that I was going to do it for the right reasons. I didn't want to do it for money. I didn't want my motivation behind doing this podcast to be for money, because then, it's like maybe one day, I get on here and I'm talking and it's like, oh, I'm not even doing this because I love it. I'm just doing this because my sponsor's paying me and I need to do an episode. I never wanted it to be like that. So I wanted it to be because I love it. And I wanted to make sure I love it. And I wanted to make sure that this is actually what I want to do before I started attaching money to it. Because I've done that in the past where you're passionate about something and then you start attaching money to it and then, it changes things. So I wanted to establish it first. And then now it's like, okay, now I can start thinking about sponsorship deals and monetization and all that kind of stuff, which is why I worked full time, while I was building this, because I didn't want to rely on this to pay my bills or be a source of income at all. I wanted to make sure I love it, and I wanted to do it for the right reasons. And everybody kept telling me, they're like, you can get sponsored, you could do that. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, it's coming. I'm like, don't worry, I'll do it. I'm like, but I'm not going to do that right away, So yeah. So I would love to get some sponsors, but I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want to do it before I felt ready. I wanted to be ready. I wanted to make sure I was consistent too, with doing these episodes every week. So yeah, and I had to change the schedule a couple times. So yeah, and I've kind of gotten it, figured out now. So I think we're ready to rock. But yeah, basically when I quit that job, I decided I'm just going to bet on myself, because I knew when I quit, I knew that I would be ready to kind of go all in and start monetizing these things and actually using this to make money, especially with my social media. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I do a ton of stuff on Instagram. I'm posting clips all the time, and I really heavily promote my podcast on there. And just not only my podcast, but just like a personal brand too, which I think is really important. But yeah, so anyways, that's my year. Some of the biggest things I've learned are that, bet on yourself, believe in yourself. The moment that you feel like you're ready to quit or that you're exhausted, like you can't go anymore, that is the exact moment that you need to keep pushing and keep moving, and do not stop adding fuel to the fire. There's a book, this book right here, the 10X rule. And some people love Grant Cardone, some people hate him, whatever. It doesn't matter what you think about it. This book is brilliant. This book changed my life. Honestly, this book changed my life. I read it when I was like 22, I think. And one thing that he talks about, and basically the concept is taking massive action. Taking massive action is necessary in order to achieve massive results. So one thing that he talks about is adding fuel to the fire and momentum. Momentum is really, really hard to get, but it's really, really easy to lose. And a lot of times what happens is when you have momentum, you get complacent, you get unmotivated because you got what you were trying to get. So you have the momentum and then you just kind of sit on it. And one thing that Grant says in his book over and over again, never rest on your laurels. And it's so true. Never rest on your laurels. Just when you start to get a little bit of success, don't just chill. Don't just sit back. And I've done this so many times. Where you just, oh, okay, now it's, I can take a breath. No, don't take a breath. Keep moving. Keep adding fuel to the fire. Keep going. Because the more fuel you add to the fire, the bigger and bigger and bigger it's going to get. Okay? So that's one thing. If you've never read that book, it's amazing. Especially if you own a business, or even if you don't own a business. Like, it's just such a good book. It's so good. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to do some Q&A now. So I don't want this episode to go too long. I've got things to do, guys. It's my birthday. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to look at my questions. I had quite a few questions this time around. Okay, first question from Training Camp Fitness. What are you manifesting? I feel like I can't tell you guys that. I'd rather you just kind of see it happen, unfold. But I am manifesting big things for myself. And for once in my life, I'm not concerned at all about the material things. I've gotten to a point in my life where it feels so fulfilled internally that material things and external things don't motivate me nearly as much as they used to. So I'm motivated more internally now than externally. So I'm manifesting big things, but I'm not manifesting a Lamborghini. I'm not manifesting a big house. Not manifesting any of that. I'll be happy driving my Jeep Cherokee around for the next 10 years. It probably won't last that long because it's a Jeep and they break down after like 80,000 miles. But but if I had to, I don't care. I don't care. And Sean Strickland was talking about that. He was talking about, he drives his Hyundai Accent and he's like, yeah, I mean, this is just, who cares? Who cares what people think? I'm cheap. I like my car. It gets me point A to point B. And yeah, I think people are way too concerned about those kind of things and, flexing on Instagram, like, oh, look at my new car. Look at all the stuff I have. And it's like, dude, does that really make you happy? No, it doesn't. So anyways, yeah, I'm manifesting big things. Big things. You'll see. Jack the Bull 97. Why'd you stop playing guitar? I didn't. My guitar is right over there. I still play guitar probably at least a few days a week. I just posted a Tyler Childers cover on Facebook. I don't post it as much on Instagram anymore just because I mostly post MMA stuff now in like my podcast. So I don't want to like randomly post me playing guitar. I don't know. I'm really insecure about my music. Like it takes a lot for me to feel like the guts to post my music, like me playing. So now that I have more of a following, I think that's why I don't post as much anymore because there's more people watching it and I just don't. I don't know. I don't want people to see it. Like I have a separate YouTube channel. I'm not even going to say what the name of it is, but that's where I post my acoustic covers. Like it's a secret channel. So if you can find it, that's where I only have like 5 subscribers and I like it that way because it's just a place for me to just share it and not feel like everybody's watching it, So yeah, I'm an artist. I'm sensitive. Like I'm an artist in so many different ways. Like I'm not a professional musician. I'm not a professional podcaster. Like I'm not a professional anything, but I'm an artist, like a true artist at heart, like a creator. So I'm sensitive, I'm sensitive about my art and when people critique it or nitpick it, I don't like that because it's like, this is just, me pouring my soul into what I'm doing. And I don't really want to open it up for critique. I want to just playing music is something that I love. It's a passion of mine. So yeah, I don't really want to just open myself up to all that kind of criticism, I guess. So you can find my secret YouTube channel and that's where I have all my music. When is your birthday? You're a Libra. Today's my birthday. Thank you, Munch MMA. I read that question and then I realized that they already shared my birthday post. So thank you, by the way, for the birthday post. I appreciate you. Are you single? Oh, gosh. Somebody asked me this. Somebody asked me, are you single? That's not the kind of questions I was wanting you guys to ask, okay? But I'll answer it. Yes, I am single by choice. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Do you collect any weird things? I'm trying to think. Do I? I don't think so. I'm trying to think of what do I have more than like 3 of. I don't think I collect anything. I'm really trying to think about this. I can't think of a single thing that I collect. No. I don't think I collect anything, let alone weird things. I am a weird person, for sure, but I don't collect any weird things. So, yeah. Skinwalker _ DeLeon. Oh, that question was from Brackleberry Chef, by the way. Skinwalker _ DeLeon. Who's your favorite fighter power couple in St. Louis? Pete and Stephanie, of course. Duh. What kind of question is that, Pete? Don't ask stupid questions. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what a cute couple. I love MMA power couples. That's like one of my favorite things ever. It's so cool. And it's so cool to see couples that like really like lift each other up and like hype each other up. I love that. So I think that's really cool that Pete and Stephanie are so positive. Like they're always hyping each other up. They go to the gym together. Like it's just cool. I love it. Siddharth 68880 asks, how is your health now and what you have cooked for lunch? My health is good. I've had some flare-ups. I've had some issues, but I would say overall it's good. I've definitely been worse for sure. So yeah, I'd say it's good. And for lunch, I have a chicken thigh. Chicken thighs and watermelon. That will be my lunch. David Van Auken, the boss man. Goal by the end of 2023. Great question. I have a few goals for the end of the year. Goal number 1, monetize my YouTube channel. That's probably the biggest goal. I'd like to lock down at least one sponsor before the end of the year. I think that's totally doable. And then another thing that I want to do is just kind of treat this more like a business, which requires work, which requires what I've learned. One of the most important things in business is systems and processes. So kind of streamlining and optimizing my systems and processes, getting more organized, things like that, which are all like weak points of mine, but they're things that I really want to work on. You know, now that I've kind of figured out how to do the podcast and how to record it and do all this stuff, I think it's a good time for me to really focus on optimization now. Another goal that I have for 2023 is I want to do an in-person podcast. So whether that's my podcast or someone else's podcast, I want to do an in-person podcast before the end of the year. So that's another goal of mine, and that's something that I want to continue doing into next year. I also would like to cover 2 or 3 more MMA events before the end of the year. I think I'm going to do one. Well, I think I have 2 actually I'm going to do in November. And then I might do one in October too. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to do, like, I know there's people that do MMA events every weekend. That's probably never going to be me. I know with my health and just with, I would just get exhausted. Because I don't get exhausted from doing like editing and creating content and filming, all that kind of stuff, like doing that at home. but going out to events and interacting with people, I think it's just like my social battery. I think just being around large groups of people just really takes a lot out of me. So, yeah, I'm probably never going to be like an every weekend event person, but once a month, yeah, I think that's totally doable. So that's something I want to do. But in my mind, 2023 is kind of already over. I'm already looking at 2024 because I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I honestly believe like if you need the new year to motivate you to start living your life, then you don't really want it bad enough. You know, I think every day should be New Year's Day. Like, you know, every day you should be thinking about how you can change your life. So, right now, I'm already going to start kind of working on things for 2024. You know, we're heading into fourth quarter, so this is the time to really start dialing things in to kick off the next year and start off hot. So some things that I want to do in 2024, some of my goals. I would like to go to a UFC pay-per-view. I think that would be an absolutely incredible experience. Yeah, that would just be amazing. It doesn't even matter what pay-per-view it is. I just want to go. I've never been to a UFC event at all. You know, guys, I live in St. Louis. I live in Missouri. They don't really come here. So I'm probably going to have to travel. So maybe when they have, you know, a pay-per-view in Vegas or something like that, that would be a good time. That would be a good time. And then another goal that I have is I want to get a passport. I don't have a passport. I've never been out of the country. That's something I need to do. So I don't know if I'm going to go out of the country next year, but I want to at least get a passport. So that's one goal. And that's not a huge, you know, it's just paperwork. But for me, paperwork it's not a strong point of mine. But that's something I want to do. I also want to learn a new language. So I either want to learn Spanish or Portuguese. Because being an MMA, I think that would be really cool if I had, you know, the ability to speak Spanish or Portuguese or both. And I think Spanish will be the easiest. Obviously, Portuguese is a very interesting language. But I definitely think I could learn Spanish pretty easily because I took 3 years of Spanish in high school. So maybe it'll come back to me. But yeah, I want to learn a new language. I think that's something that would really help me kind of level up. So that's something I want to do. And then I want to upgrade my equipment. I want to get, you know, a new studio set up. I want to get a new computer with better editing software and just kind of take it to more of a professional level. Like I said, treat it like a business. That's something I want to do. And then, yeah, I get like new microphones, lighting, all that kind of stuff. Because right now I'm kind of DIY, low budget, as you can see. But I want to take it to a whole new level, guys. So that's one of my goals, and that's why I need sponsors. So, because I'm not going to be able to do that without money. And then another goal of mine is I think next year I want to, if possible, if I can make it happen, if it makes sense, I want to move out of state. I want to move somewhere else, not permanently, but just, you know, I moved to Texas when I was 21. I lived there for a year, and it was a great experience. You know, I probably partied a little too much, but I think at this point in my life, I'm much more responsible, so I definitely would have a much better experience moving out of state. But I think it's good to get out of your comfort zone and do things like that. Whether I move out, you know, for a year, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is, I think it's a good experience for me to have. And like my sister, she moved to Jacksonville, and I think it'd be really cool to be closer to her. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe Jacksonville, or somewhere around there would be, ideal. Or, you know, there's other options. There's other places I'm thinking of, but, that kind of makes the most sense to me. So moving out of state is one thing that I think I want to do next year. If not next year, then 2025, but I'm going to probably try to do it next year. That's just something that I think would be good for me. to do at this point in my life. And yeah, so, and I think it would be good to be close to my sister too, because we used to hang out all the time, and it kind of sucks not having her. And Emily moved to Wisconsin, so it's like I don't have anybody really here besides my parents, and my parents want to move to Florida too. So it's like, yeah, I mean, there's really not much reason for me to stay here. At least not like permanently. So yeah, I think I want to try a new place. I think it would be good for me. I think it would be a great experience, get me out of my comfort zone, meet new people, have a new environment. I think that's all good things. And you know, I don't think it's good to move out of state if you're like running from something. I think it's good to go if you're running to something, like, you know, going to be closer to my sister. And then, you know, there's people in MMA that I would be able to collaborate with down there, tons of people. And yeah, I think it would be a good experience. I think there's a lot of good reasons for me to do that. So that's something I'm thinking about doing. I haven't decided 100% yet, but that is high on my priority list for next year. And then another thing I want to do is do live commentary. So that's one thing. I'm not ready to do it right now, but I think next year I will be ready. So yeah, I'm going to start getting ready now, and hopefully, yeah, I don't think I'll ever feel ready to do it, but I do want to do it next year. It's one of my goals. So I'm going to start getting ready, start kind of, you know, trying to level up my MMA knowledge, and maybe do some like live streams to practice, like a fight companion. Yeah, I think it'd be fun. So, and then another goal, sorry guys, I'm dying. Another goal I have for next year is, I don't know if this will happen. This goes back to the person asking me if I'm single. Yes, I am single. And like I was dating somebody a couple months ago, briefly, you know, and it just like, it was just a mismatch, you know, we were just a mismatch. You know, nice guy, but you know, for me, not what I'm looking for. And that's the problem. Like, that's why sometimes I wish like people wouldn't like ask me out and like hit on me sometimes, because it's like, if you're going to, I just hope you know who I really am. And honestly, like, I think that the next person that I date, like, I'll have to make sure they've like listened to my podcast and like know what they're getting into. Because it's like, yeah, I'm not a normal person, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm just different. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It's just, I feel like I'm compatible with a small percentage of people because of that. And I've talked about this before. I'm just different. And I'm looking for a different type of relationship than I think a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of guys out there that are like desperate to settle down and get in a relationship and have kids and get married. And that's not necessarily my priority. Like, I do want to get married. I do believe in marriage, but I want to find the right person first. And it's something that I don't take lightly. And I know people are going to say like, oh, you're too picky, or, you know, you need to be more realistic. It's like, no, I want it all. Like, I want, like, I want to be successful. I want to find a great partner. I want to have it all. And I think you can. I know people that have done it. I think you can if you actually try. If you know, you have to know what you want though. You have to get specific. I think people cast too wide of a net. I think that's the problem. They cast too wide of a net. Like, there's guys that hit on me and I'm like, you don't even like MMA. You don't even work out. Like, we have nothing in common. Like, why are you flirting with me? Like, you just like me because I'm cute. Like, you just like the idea of being with me or whatever. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that want to be with me for the wrong reasons. And then when you're with somebody for the wrong reasons, they're constantly criticizing you and complaining about things that you do. And that was like the last guy that I dated. He was constantly criticizing me, and telling me like, oh, you need to have more fun. You work too much. You do this. It's like, dude, this is who I am. If you don't like it, then I don't want to be with you. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm willing to compromise on things, but I'm not willing to compromise everything. I'm not willing to give up on my dreams to be in a relationship. That's not what I'm not willing to do that at all. And I don't think you have to, I think there's just too many people out there that are desperate to be in a relationship. So I think some of my requirements for the next person I date, first of all, if you're on any dating apps, automatic no, because I've been on dating apps before. I haven't been on them in a long time. It's been like a year now since the last time I even like hopped on it for a second. But there was a time where I was like actively like pursuing, a relationship on dating apps, maybe like a few years ago, like right after COVID. And I got nowhere, I didn't meet, like I was in a relationship with someone, like a serious relationship at one point. But I didn't meet that person through dating apps. And dating apps, what they do to your mentality about dating is, I think, really bad and destructive. And I also think the perception of having all these options and constantly looking for the next best thing, I think that's a huge problem. So the next person that I date, like if they're on dating apps, I don't think... I don't really think I want to pursue that relationship until they've been off of them for a little while, because it's just, it just does something to people. I've noticed, like there's a certain desperation about it almost. So either that, or they're not looking for something serious. They're just looking for, their next hookup or whatever. And I don't really want to be any part of that either. So it's just like there's two ends of the spectrum on dating apps. There's guys that are ready to get married and have kids tomorrow. And then there's guys that, they don't even really want to hang out with you. They just want to hook up with as many women as possible. So there's like these two ends of the spectrum. And it might be the same for women too. I don't know. I'm not, I don't date women, so I don't know what it's like being a guy and dating women. But I know as far as men go, it seems like those are the two ends of the spectrum. And I'm looking for a life partner, somebody that I can do life with. I'm not looking for somebody to settle down and have kids with right away and just kind of be a placeholder for that picture perfect white picket fence golden retriever life. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to live an extraordinary life, and I'm looking to do things that are just on a different level. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have kids and wanting to settle down and do all those things. It's just, that's not my main priority, and I don't even know if I want to have kids yet, because I haven't found the right guy that I would want to have kids with. So once I find that right guy and then we get into a relationship, I think that has to be a discussion that you kind of have together. I don't think it's something that you should predetermine before going into a relationship. I think it's something that you should kind of naturally just discuss as you progress in your relationship, in your marriage. I don't think it's something that you should force by any means. And that's just me. Everybody has a different goal in what they're looking for in relationships. And I realize that I'm not going to be compatible with most people. And I'm okay with that, because I only need to find one person. So I don't need to be compatible with everybody. I just need to be compatible with one. So I need to find that right person. And sometimes, it might take time. Sometimes it might take getting to know different people on a deeper level. And I think that's something that I'm kind of more interested in doing now than dating. I don't want to date. I don't want to go on dates. I don't want to, date somebody for 3 months and then, we kind of fall off. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get to know people. And then if something comes out of one of those relationships, then great. But I don't want to focus on the romantic aspect of the relationship until I've gotten to know the person, until I've been able to really confirm that we are compatible and that they are somebody that I could see myself being with for the rest of my life. So I want to focus on getting to know someone on a deeper level first, then introduce the romantic part of it, and then, kind of go from there. But I'm not looking for a super romantic type of relationship. I don't need flowers. I don't need dates. I don't need, all that kind of stuff. I don't need love letters. I want someone who I can just see myself spending every single day with and having amazing conversations with. And I was listening to Lex Friedman's podcast, and I'll kind of end it on this. I was listening to Lex Friedman's podcast. He had a divorce attorney on, and he was talking about what makes relationships successful. And they were saying that it's the us against the world mentality that makes relationships successful. It's finding someone who, nobody is going to talk shit on them. They're not going to let anybody talk shit on you. You just support each other to such a level that if anybody messes with your partner, like, yeah, no, sorry, you don't talk about my partner like that. And that, I think, is really important, especially for people like me who are doing things that kind of, you open yourself up to a lot of criticism. You open yourself up to haters, naysayers, whatever you want to say. So if I have a partner that criticizes me, and this is kind of why, like, I didn't think it was going to work out with the last guy, because, yeah, he criticized me a lot. If I have a partner that criticizes me and talks negatively about me to their friends, to their family in any sort of way, that is not going to work. That is not going to work at all. I need someone who is so positive about me, so hyped about me. And I'm the same way with them. It's not a one-sided thing. It's a two-way street. I think that's necessary because that's a bond that's really, really hard to break. And I think I need that. I need that because I do deal with so much criticism. I do deal with, so much, even criticism from myself, not even just from other people. So I need someone who believes in me, supports me, encourages me. I need that. I need that person. I need it to be us against the world, us two together. We're going to take over. That's the mentality I want. Power couple dynamic. That's what I'm looking for. So that's why I'm single, and that's why I'm probably going to be single for a while, because it's, even if I find the right person, I'm not just going to jump into the relationship with them. If I find the right person and be like, okay, we got something here. Let's get to know this person more and see if they are compatible. Yeah, I think that's important. So that's why I'm single. I'm probably going to be single. I would like to find someone, within the next year or two. I think that would be good. Because I am going to be 30 in 2 years. Ugh. God. But it's okay. Everybody's on their own timeline. I've had a lot happen in my life, so I don't think, and right now I don't think I'm ready for a relationship. I don't think I'm ready for the type of relationship that I want, because I really do want to make sure that I've kind of done a little bit more work on myself. And there's some things that I want to accomplish before I really get serious about someone. So not that I can't really talk to people and, start trying to find that person, but getting into a serious relationship right this second is probably not my biggest priority. If it happens, it happens. Great. You're never truly ready, but I don't think that right now it's not a big priority for me right now. I am really trying to get in touch with myself, though, in learning more about what I really want and what I'm looking for in a partner, and observing things and seeing okay, this person, they, have these qualities, and, we're compatible in this way, or, oh, this person, I thought I liked them, but this is an issue that might come up in the future. Just kind of observing those little things, and also reflecting on past relationships and reflecting on mistakes that I've made and things that I've done wrong. And learning how to avoid that in the future. And I think a lot of the issues in relationships do come down to compatibility issues. I think it's because a lot of people focus too much on the past. They're too critical of their partner for their past, or they judge their partner for their past, or, they're jealous, envious, whatever it is. And also just a lack of compatibility, I think, is huge. It's a huge miss for a lot of people. I think too many people focus on desperation, codependence, desperately wanting to get in a relationship, settle down, have kids. There's so much pressure from society to do that. And also just kind of relying too much on the chemistry connection side of it and not paying attention to the compatibility side. And that's why I'd rather have more of a lackluster relationship, if you will, than a super romantic, passionate relationship. And I want to be passionate about the person I'm with, but passionate about them in ways, oh, I love how hard they work. Oh, I love what they're doing. Oh, I can't wait to see them achieve this. Oh, I can't wait to, tell them about this big accomplishment. Those kind of things I think are important to be passionate about. But just being like, oh, my boyfriend's so sexy. Like, okay, cool. Like, and that's why, like, yeah, obviously I want to be with somebody who's attractive, that I'm attracted to, but I kind of have weird taste. Like, I'm attracted to people who are like unique looking. Like, I'm not attracted to like the typical like fitness model type guy. Like, guys that are like too clean cut almost. Like, I'm not really into that. Like, I kind of like a guy that's a little, I don't know, like a little rough around the edges. Like, I don't know. And I also like a guy that is like, really believes in himself and like, I don't know, maybe has some haters. Like, I don't know. I think that's cool. Like, when a guy has haters, like, I don't know, I like it. Cause then it's like, yeah, screw those people. You're awesome. Like, I love that. It's the us against the world thing. Cause like, I have haters too. So, and I'm only gonna acquire more of them as I get bigger. But yeah, those are things that I think are important. So anyways, well, thank you guys for joining me today on my birthday. I'm so excited for the future and excited for just everything that's happening in my life. Everything is just really starting to come together. So I appreciate you guys' support. I appreciate you listening, watching. Yeah, it's amazing kind of the journey that I've been on. So thank you guys for all the support, and I will see you next week. Bye.